Hey, welcome back to another edition of the Casalin Experience, Step Up to Leadership. We are here live on the campus of Harry S. Truman College as we talk to my main man, Joe Valencia. He is the academic support specialist here at Truman College. How are you today, sir?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you, Kasilin.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate it. I know I called you last minute to jump on um, this conversation, but your flexibility just kind of speaks to the man that I've grown to know. So you are appreciated. I want to start out, man, just by it's from a distance, right? I've watched both you and George, and I had an opportunity to talk to him earlier. Just come into this environment and dive in, man, with a really good energy and a good spirit about the work. And I've been extremely impressed, although we haven't been able to work together like real intense. I think that there have been some opportunities for us to learn from one another. And so I use this opportunity here to learn more about you and and who you are. So we'll start there.
hmm
When you think about it, and we think about men of color and education and men of color and leadership, what did you grow up here in the city of Chicago?
Yes, yes. So I was born and raised here in the city of Chicago, specifically the Pilsen neighborhood. And
Okay,
so, yeah, I've been here my whole life.
that's what's up. What
hmm
high school?
Benito Juarez.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, I just got chills. I get
Mm.
really excited when people say, whereas, man, when I was in high school, my junior year, I had gotten into some trouble, but they still let me come to the game over at Juarez, and they put me in the second half. And then the second half of that game, I scored 27 points. So
Ooh.
yeah, I just had to, I just had to throw that out. But
Mm.
but that's cool. So going through that experience, what were some of your influences as you grew up?
Mm. I immediately just think of my parents. Definitely really strong role models. And so both my parents immigrated from Mexico to Chicago in the late 70s. And so they didn't finish school. And so they've worked since a very young age. And so just looking at their journey, looking how they came to this country, learn a new language, a new culture, you know, yeah, like I mentioned, they didn't go to school. And so just their work ethic, those were my role models growing up. And so I immediately just think of my parents.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
Mhm.
cool. So Joe, are you first generation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you have younger siblings?
So I'm the youngest of three. I have an older brother and an older sister.
Okay. Okay. And
Mhm.
so you went through, and so during that time, Benito Juarez, your grade school, were you able to identify any male figures outside of your family that were influential in you growing up, in particular in the education field?
Mm. So yes, I think of so when I was at Juarez, I participated in the junior ROTC program.
Yes.
And so there was so we had two instructors, and so retired Marines. And so one man was of Mexican descent, and then the other gentleman was black. And so they both grew up in Chicago, and so having them as role models. And so for me, being part of the ROTC program, obviously a lot of opportunities to develop leadership skills. But the fact that I had those two men as instructors definitely shaped my career trajectory. And so when I was in high school, um, I come from a low income family. And so for me, college was almost impossible,
Mm.
as I think about cost, again, being first generation as well. They didn't have they had no idea, like, how do I do this college thing? And so I mentioned the JROTC program because I wanted to enlist in the Marine Corps. That was my dream. That was my goal.
Wow.
Wanted to enlist in the Marine Corps. And these two gentlemen told me, like, no, like, don't do that. Like, go to school. It's like, go to school first, and then you could enlist in the Marine Corps. For basically what I was when I was in high school, the only reason I was enlisting was to fund my education. And so when I had those two gentlemen say, hey, like you should consider school, there are opportunities for you. So that definitely shifted my career trajectory in high
Wow.
school.
Wow. So just that education piece, right? And I think that in some instances, how many people fall in the crack because they don't have that guidance or they don't have those individuals saying, hey, here's some other options. Obviously, you had it all aligned. You say, hey, they're going to fund my school. Well, they showed you other options, other avenues to get your school funded. And so that was excellent. So let's go a little bit more specific. Did you run into any non coaches, non-disciplinarians, men of color teachers throughout your educational history?
Yes. So in high school, there were several educators who in high school, like my math instructors.
That's what's up.
So I had them. Trying to think. Music instructors as well. So I took music in high school, and so just having them as well.
If I,
Yeah.
what role? And I didn't mean to, but what role did that play having a men of color as a math teacher, or right? Was there any more significance to that as you compare that to maybe some of your other instructors that weren't male of colors?
For sure, it certainly had an impact. I know that in the classroom, I definitely felt comfortable. More comfortable, just more at ease. But also just having a role model. Have someone that went through the education system, someone that knows their stuff, the way they presented themselves, dressed, the way they spoke. I was like, oh, like I want to be like that one day. So that was significant for sure.
That's cool. I think that's what the gist of this is, right? Why do we choose the field? And then why do we persist? Why do when I run into men of color in education, do so often, man, I've been in the field for 20 years. I've been in the field for 10 years. Why do you think it's important from a leadership perspective? As you mentioned, you had the two gentlemen in ROTC, you had your math instructor, your music instructor. Why is that important? In particular in our communities?
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to um, not like as I talk about like role models is as we look at the media, as we look at the rhetoric that's being used when describing men of color, it's often from a very deficit approach, right? And so I appreciate having role models because it almost challenges that rhetoric that's being used. And so the media portrays men of color as criminals, as violent or just horrible things. And so even thinking about from an economic standpoint, right? You know, men make wrong choices, and so it's nice to have those role models and say, hey, like there's another possibility. You don't have to sell drugs. You don't have to join a gang. There are other options for you. And so by having those role models in education, it almost creates like a possibility, like, hey, I can do that too.
Hope.
There you go.
One of the. I think we take it for granted. I think we take that word for granted one time, man. I heard Joakim Noah, former Chicago Bulls, shout out Joakim. He was doing a PSA one time, man, and he just sat there and he said hope. And I had never connected to the word, and I'm an older guy. I had never connected to the word until he said it in the way he said it. Like I saw this picture. And I think what you just described was just that, right? It was providing hope, providing a different perspective. And so understanding the importance. So as I rush to a close, so often, George, we tell our what we do. We tell our how we do it. Why, when I ask you why the field of education, why the field of leadership, why this particular journey for you?
Well, I just want to add a little bit more.
Okay, please.
I forgot to mention that a lot of these institutions of higher education were not built or designed for men of color. And
Mm,
so when we have those role models, it almost pushes against that. And so it provides hope, it provides possibility. And so I think that's important. For me, my identity, my culture is super important. And so to be able to have that. And so when I meet men of color, it's very authentic. I was like, oh, like they're not putting up a front. And so I appreciate having role models that can do that for me. And so growing up, being exposed to those type of men definitely had a significant impact. And now in terms of my why education, I never saw myself in education.
mm,
It was never like the go-to. The way I got exposed to it was through my involvement on campus. And so when I went to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, I got involved on campus, joined different organizations, and then I started getting part-time jobs. And so my first job was a tutor. I was a peer tutor. And
mm.
so um, I just enjoy working with people. I enjoy helping others. And so, again, never thought about education. I actually studied communication and Latino studies with a minor in business. When I first went to college, my goal was to pursue a career that was going to give me money, like finances. I was driven by money. Again, coming from a low income family, but then I realized that that wasn't fulfilling me. I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And so as I started to get involved, as I started to have these different jobs on campus, and so after the tutoring, I secured a student employee position at the Latino Cultural Center. And so that experience is what really shaped me into going into higher education.
Mm.
And so again, for me, it was wanting to give back, wanting to serve people, serve students, because a lot of people did that for me, and I wanted to do that for others. And so through this part-time position, I was able to work with students, kind of be like a peer mentor. And a leader. And so I wanted to encourage people. I wanted to inspire them. And so as I was developing those skills, this was like my junior year. As I was developing those skills, I started to ask questions like, how do I do this for a living? What do I need to do? Because I really
Right.
like the college environment. I really like working with students. And so had a conversation with several people across campus. I got involved in it's the NASPA NUF program, so undergraduate fellows program. And so through that, I was paired with a mentor, and my curiosity just took me to different places, started asking questions about, well, how do I do this for a living? What are my options? Again, never saw myself in education. And so as I started to meet people, I learned about their story. And I was told, hey, like there's graduate school. And I was like, graduate school? Like, what is that? What is graduate school? Here I am trying to finish this college degree. And for me, like that was a big goal, finish a college degree, and
Yeah.
master's degree was never like on my radar. And so as soon as I found out that, hey, there's funding, you could do this for a living, I did some research. So I ended up continuing my education right after undergrad. And so I enrolled at Loyola University Chicago in their
Wow.
higher ed program. And so go ahead, Casales.
No, no. Hey, man, listen, listen, listen. I I did this right to help me with a paper. I will tell you that, and I want this to be recorded. But and this just goes to show you, man, how if you have the right intentions, like what I've been able to learn about you guys just today, like, and I've been on meetings or whatever, and maybe I was doing all the talking, but I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And it is a story that it absolutely needs to be shared, right? And shared and shared and shared because for however much we think we hearing stories, no. Everyone is significant and everybody's journey is different. And so for me to hear this and really, really entrench myself in your journey is awesome. I can literally sit here because that's real. And I think you hit on something because you said, because of our journeys, when you finally get to a point, you know you're getting the most authentic person. I think you mentioned, because I knew I was going to get it real when I was in front of an instructor that was Black and brown, right? Because of that particular journey. And so I want you, man, to continue to share. I'm going to let you finish out here, but you got to share your story, and just know that I'll continue to create platforms for you guys to share your story in and throughout the college, because I think it's a must share. It's a must share story. Do you have anything for me in closing, brother?
Oh yeah, just a few more things. Again, education was never on my radar, and never thought of, like, I never considered education. And so as I started to gain these experiences, as you know, there are not a lot of men in education.
Right.
And so for me, that also propelled me to seek opportunities. And so to be like, I didn't realize it until after the fact, but the fact that I was able to serve students, it had a significant impact, because I think for the first time for many students, they never had a Latino man like teach them or serve as an advisor. And so for me, that certainly, again, the why, right? Like, and so want to go back to what I mentioned earlier about my graduate education. Since I entered the field of higher ed, I've done things around student success. Student success has been kind of like an overarching theme of what I'm committed to. And so so when I was a graduate student, I coordinated a peer mentoring program for first generation students and students of color at Loyola University Chicago. And so again, having conversations with students, being a resource, being a role model for students is something that I really enjoyed. And so I found my niche. And so again, committed to first generation students of color. After I finished my graduate degree, my master's degree, I worked at Oakton Community College, and I was an advisor for the TRIL program there. And so in addition to advising, I also taught. I taught a college success seminar. And mhm. So again, doing advising, serving that a role as as an educator, I continue that in the classroom. And so as we look at statistics, there in faculty ranks, there are not a lot of men of color who teach. And so having that opportunity was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed it. And so did that for about 4 years. And so after that, I enrolled in a PhD program. And so took courses. I'm currently working on my dissertation right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. I would have never known that. That's awesome. So you're defending, you're in the process now. Does Dr. Jackson know that?
No.
You know, I'm just telling you, I'm gonna share that. He's a huge advocate. There are a few of the people here. So just to share with you, man, the interesting part is on Friday of next week, I will, at 53 years old, I will complete my master's degree. And so this is my capstone, right? Why do men of color choose education, or why don't they choose the field of education, right? And when we do, why do we persist? And I'm hearing differing stories, right? Man, I couldn't do it. All they wanted me to do was be a gym teacher or a disciplinarian. And so if you notice, some of my questions are taking you into the classroom as an instructor. So I think some of the information that you gave around statistics and your why was extremely important in terms of just answering some of that information that I have to give, right? Why do we? Overarching you here, because when I was little, somebody cuffed me, and well, it always starts with education was never something that I was going to do, right? Not one of you guys have said, when I was 12 years old, I said to myself, I was going to go in the field of education. So to hear these stories, man, first of all, I feel good. I feel like I'm getting better as a person just from hearing these stories. And then in addition to that, like this information as I compile it, it's going to be important when we put it back out here in the world, because it's a whole story. And so I've just created this video, this montage, where you guys will pop in at different points and I'll ask an overarching question. And if some of you answered it the same way, I'll align those answers. If some of you answered it different ways, I'll align those answers. And so, man, listen, I appreciate it. Super proud of you, man. I knew that I had picked the right person, but like you got out for me. You gave me some really quality information, man. And I look forward to sharing with you that I got 30 out of 30 on this assignment. All right.
Sounds good, Kasalian.
Thank you so much, guys. Today, Step Up to Leadership, the Kasalian Experience. We've had the pleasure of talking with Joe. Say it.
Palencia.
Palencia. Yes. Here on the Kasalian Experience, Step Up in Leadership. Always remember imparting. Fly low. Avoid the radar. And no matter what happens when they come for the car, save the radio. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.